The rain hadn't stopped all evening. It poured like it had something to wash away, like the city itself was holding back tears. Neon lights shimmered on the soaked pavement, their reflections dancing in puddles like ghosts from a forgotten past. Under one flickering street lamp, a black car sat with its hazard lights blinking weakly through the downpour. Behind the wheel, Li Wei leaned back, one hand gripping the steering wheel, the other holding his phone in the air, pointlessly trying to find signal.
Of course. Flat tire. No signal. And the one damn night I skipped my driver.
He sighed, tossed the phone on the seat, and reached back to grab the umbrella from the floor. Stepping out, the cold hit him first, sharp and uninviting. The rain followed, drenching the collar of his expensive coat before he had time to open the umbrella. He clicked it open and stood still for a moment, looking around at the empty street, at the late-night shadows of a city that hadn't changed, and yet, somehow, felt like it had moved on without him. He didn't belong here anymore. But that's when he saw him. Across the street, beside a delivery scooter parked just under a streetlight, stood a man, helmet off, dark hair plastered to his forehead by the rain. Worn-out raincoat clinging to a muscular frame. One hand holding the strap of a delivery box. The other frozen mid-movement. Their eyes met. Time didn't stop, but something in Li Wei's chest did. Chen Yu. The same eyes. The same jawline. The same silence. 8 years. 8 years, and it felt like nothing had changed and everything had changed all at once. Li Wei's breath caught in his throat. His umbrella lowered just slightly. He blinked, as if unsure whether what he was seeing.
Chen Yu?
I thought you'd be somewhere warm by now.
Guess fate wanted to test if you still hate it.
Need help, or just here to mess with people again?
And there it was, that tone.
Still short-tempered.
The silence load wasn't empty. It was full. Full of things neither had ever said. Full of questions that would never have answers. Full of every word they had swallowed back 8 years ago. They stood under the rain like strangers who once meant the world to each other. And neither of them moved. Chen Yu was the first to move. Without a word, he turned back toward his scooter, water splashing at his boots as he walked away. His back was rigid, his fists clenched at his sides. It was a silent dismissal, colder than any shout could have been. Li Wei watched him go, chest tight, throat dry. Same as always. Chen Yu didn't chase. Chen Yu didn't explain. Chen Yu just left. Li Wei bit the inside of his cheek, fighting down the familiar sting burning behind his eyes. He shouldn't care. After all these years, after the way Chen Yu had thrown him away without reason, he shouldn't. The rain blurred his vision as he tightened his grip on the umbrella. He should have called out. Should have demanded answers. Should have grabbed Chen Yu's arm the way he used to back then, when they fought like wild dogs in the dorm room, yelling until they ended up laughing, or breathing too hard and too close. But he stood frozen. Chen Yu reached the scooter, strapped the delivery box more securely to the back with rough movements. His hands moved like they had something to prove, like they were trying to tie down the parts of him that were falling apart. Li Wei remembered those hands. He remembered their strength. He remembered the way they once pinned him against the dorm wall, not in anger, but something messier, heavier, just moments before their first, disastrous, unforgettable kiss. Flashback, 8 years ago, final year of high school. The dormitory smelled of cheap detergent and rain-soaked shoes. Li Wei slammed the door behind him, backpack hitting the ground with a thud. Chen Yu was at the desk, headphones on, pretending not to notice. Li Wei crossed the room in 3 strides, ripped the headphones off, and threw them onto the bed.
What the hell is your problem?
Chen Yu didn't. His jaw was locked, eyes dark with a storm. Li Wei didn't understand. You think you can just ignore me forever? Like I don't exist? Li Wei shoved him hard in the chest. Chen Yu stumbled back a step, but didn't retaliate. The air between them tightened. Li Wei's breath hitched. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of everything he couldn't say.
You piss me off.
And then he Chen Yu's collar, fisted the fabric in both hands, and pulled him down. Their mouths crashed together, clumsy and furious. Chen Yu froze, caught between anger and something else. His hands came up, pushed Li Wei away, but only weakly, like he didn't really want him to stop. The kiss didn't last long. Chen Yu shoved him back roughly after a second, eyes blazing. Li Wei wiped the back of his hand across his mouth, breathing heavily. I don't know, he said. But it felt real. For a moment, Chen Yu didn't move. His fists clenched and unclenched at his sides. His mouth opened, then closed again. He turned his back. He didn't say a word. Li Wei stared at him, heart pounding so hard it hurt. Something real had sparked between them that night. Something neither of them would ever be able to fully destroy. Present day. The scooter engine roared to life, bringing Li Wei crashing back into the rain. Chen Yu didn't look back as he drove off into the mist, tail light glowing like a dying ember. Li Wei stood there for a long time after the sound of the engine faded. The rain soaked him completely, but he barely felt it. It had been 8 years. And it still hurt like hell. Episode 2, Shadows Between Us. The scooter engine roared to life. The red taillight flared through the rain like a dying ember, cutting through the mist before fading into the darkness. And still, Li Wei didn't move. He stood there, frozen, the umbrella slipping from his hand without a sound. Rain crashed against his shoulders, soaking through his expensive coat, chilling him to the bone. But he didn't feel it. Not the rain. Not the cold. Not even the weight in his chest. He left again. Just like that. No explanation. No apology. No sign that he even cared. Li Wei had returned after 8 years of silence. Li Wei's jaw trembled, his breath uneven. He blinked rapidly, water dripping from his lashes. Whether it was rain or something else, he didn't know. His legs felt numb. He couldn't make them move. I'm such an idiot, he muttered to himself, voice hoarse and low. Why did I think? He trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Unable to admit what he really wanted. The street was quiet now. Empty, except for the faint glow of the street lamp above and the sound of raindrops pounding against the pavement like a heartbeat out of control. Li Wei stood in the same spot, unmoving, like a broken statue. A woman passed on the other side of the street, glancing at him briefly before hurrying away. He didn't even notice. His mind was still back there on that face. Chen Yu. That face hadn't changed. Older, maybe. Harder, definitely. But it was still him. Still those same thunderstorm eyes, still that clenched jaw that spoke louder than words ever could. Still that silence, sharp as a blade and twice as cold. Li Wei's fists tightened at his sides. His nails dug into his palms, grounding him. He had imagined this moment so many times. So many versions of their reunion. Some with shouting. Some with laughter. Some with desperate kisses in the middle of a rainy street. But not this. Never this. Flashback. 2 weeks before returning to the city. I don't care what you think, Li Wei snapped at his sister. I need to see him. You don't even know if he's still in the city, she said gently. What are you expecting, Wei? That he'll open his arms and welcome you back. I don't expect anything, he lied. But he did. He expected something. A look. A word. A sign that the years hadn't erased him. Present day. Li Wei finally moved. Just barely. He reached down, picked up the umbrella with stiff fingers, and shook the water off uselessly. His arms felt like lead. He looked down the road again. Nothing. Chen Yu was gone. Swallowed by rain and silence. You still know how to ruin me without even trying, Li Wei whispered. He didn't mean it as an accusation. He meant it as a truth. Somewhere across the city, Chen Yu dropped his helmet onto the floor of his small, dimly lit apartment. His hair was still wet, rain dripping from the tips. He peeled off his jacket and tossed it over the back of a chair with more force than necessary. His breath was uneven. He hated this. This feeling. This burning ache in his chest that came back the moment Li Wei's voice touched his ears again. He should have ridden past. Should have ignored him. Pretended he was just another customer on a broken-down street. But he hadn't. He looked. He spoke. And now he was paying for it. Chen Yu sat down on the edge of the bed and leaned forward, burying his face in his hands. His fingers curled into his hair, pulling slightly, as if pain might shake the memories loose. Still short-tempered, he said. Still Chen Yu. That voice. That line. Li Wei had looked at him like no time had passed. And that was the worst part. Because Chen Yu had spent 8 years trying to kill the part of himself that still ached for that gaze. Why did you come back? He murmured to the floor. You shouldn't have come back. Back under the streetlight, Li Wei finally turned away. He dragged himself back to the car like a man coming out of a battlefield. His clothes clung to him, and his shoes squelched with every step. But his face was empty. Except for his eyes. His eyes were alive with something else. Determination. Pain. Hope, maybe. He slid into the driver's seat, staring out the windshield, watching the rain streak across the glass. Episode 3, The First Winter. Flashback, final year of high school. The heater rattled faintly in the corner, more noise than warmth. The cold still clung to the window panes, and the air in the dorm room smelled like a mix of damp notebooks and stale instant noodles. Li Wei stood just inside the doorway, his duffel bag sliding off his shoulder with a soft thump against the floor. The room was small, 2 beds, 2 desks, a shared wardrobe, a cracked window that let in more wind than light. Simple, suffocating. Across the room, a boy sat at the desk, back turned to him. Hood up. Head down. Music faintly leaking from a single earbud. Li Wei cleared his throat. No response. He stepped in further, boots squeaking against the floor. Hi, he said, trying again. I'm Li Wei. I just transferred. Still nothing. The boy didn't turn around. Didn't even flinch. Li Wei blinked. Okay. He dropped his umbrella by the wall, kicked off his wet shoes, and wiped his hands on his pants. The cold had made his fingers stiff. They tingled slightly. Cool room, he muttered to himself, mostly for the silence. He glanced around. Chen Yu's side was already lived in. Neat, but bare. Textbooks stacked with military precision. A small tin of ointment and a cheap lighter on the desk. A black hoodie hanging off the chair, sleeves worn at the cuffs. There was a photo tucked behind a math workbook, turned face down. Li Wei turned toward his own side. Bare mattress. Blank wall. A folded blanket sat at the foot of the bed like it had been placed by someone doing the bare minimum. He exhaled. So this is home now. 10 minutes passed. The heater kept buzzing. The silence felt heavier than the cold. Chen Yu hadn't moved once. He just kept writing, head bent, pen scratching paper in a steady rhythm. He's not just quiet, Li Wei thought. He's gone. Do you want me to keep the window side? Li Wei asked, trying again, nodding to the bed closest to the cracked pane. Chen Yu didn't respond. Li Wei narrowed his eyes. All right, I'll take the window. Don't hit me if I sneeze on your pillow. Still nothing. Li Wei gave a soft scoff and turned away. Cool. Communication is overrated anyway. That night, Li Wei lay awake, arms behind his head, staring at the ceiling. The room was dim. Only a sliver of streetlight made its way through the crooked curtain, casting odd shadows across the floor. Chen Yu was already in bed, facing the wall. Breathing slow. Still silent. Li Wei pulled the blanket higher and let out a soft sigh. He could have at least said hi. The days passed like that. Chen Yu left early. Came back late. Barely said a word. He ate quietly, studied quietly, existed like a ghost in his own body. Li Wei, on the other hand, had no trouble talking to everyone else, students, teachers, even the lunch staff. He laughed loudly, made sarcastic comments, passed notes in class. But in the dorm? Silence. Always silence. He tried asking questions about classes, the schedule, even the heater, but Chen Yu either ignored him or responded with single words that made it clear the conversation was over before it began. One evening, Li Wei was brushing his teeth when he caught Chen Yu watching him through the mirror, just briefly. The second their eyes met, Chen Yu looked away, grabbed his towel, and walked out of the room without a sound. So he does know I exist, Li Wei thought. Fascinating. Another night, Li Wei dropped a book while climbing onto the bed. It landed with a loud thud. Chen Yu flinched slightly. Li Wei froze. Then grinned. Oh, sorry. Did I interrupt your precious nothing? Chen Yu didn't look up. You're loud. I'm alive. Silence. Li Wei turned off the light. Good night, roommate. No reply. Sleep tight. Don't kill me in my sleep. Still nothing. But he thought, maybe, he saw the corner of Chen Yu's mouth twitch. Just a little. Narrator. They weren't friends. They weren't enemies. They weren't anything, really. Just two strangers stuck in the same space, breathing the same cold air, sleeping just 6 feet apart, but living in completely different worlds. And for now, that was enough. Episode 4, A Game of Silence. Flashback, a week later. The gym was louder than Li Wei expected. Not with voices, but with motion. The echo of bouncing basketballs, sneakers dragging across polished floors, and the occasional screech of the scoreboard flipping numbers mid-drill. He stood by the entrance, taking it all in. Most of the players looked older, taller. They moved like they'd been playing together for years. Like they belonged. And then he saw him. Chen Yu. Standing at the free throw line, shooting with calm precision. His arms moved like clockwork, lift, flick, land. The ball barely touched the rim. A perfect swish. Every single time. The coach barked Li Wei's name and waved him over. Transfer kid, yeah? You played before? Li Wei nodded, brushing the hair from his forehead. Starting guard. Back-to-back regional wins. One of the boys nearby gave a low whistle. Another elbowed Chen Yu, who said nothing, just kept staring ahead. Chen Yu, the coach said, without looking up from the clipboard. Pair up with the new kid. One-on-one. Chen Yu's gaze finally flicked toward Li Wei. Expression unreadable. He didn't respond. He just moved toward the opposite half of the court and bounced a ball in Li Wei's direction. Li Wei caught it with one hand. Strong silent type, huh? Nothing. They played. No words. Just rhythm. And weirdly, chemistry. Not the romantic kind. Not even the friendly kind. Just the kind where your body knows what the other player's going to do before they do it. The kind that only happens between two people who play seriously. Chen Yu guarded hard. He didn't go easy, didn't show off, didn't flinch when Wei got a shot past him. His defense was clean, but unkind. Wei kept up. Matched his pace. Matched his energy. But every time he stole a glance at Chen Yu's face. Nothing. During a break, Wei sat on the bench, panting, sweat clinging to the back of his neck. He looked over as Chen Yu laughed quietly at something the captain said. His posture relaxed. His mouth even twitched into a small smirk. Then Chen Yu glanced at Wei. And just like that, gone. No expression. Just coldness. So you do speak, Wei thought. Just not to me. Locker room, post-practice. The air was humid with heat and soap steam. Boys talked loudly over open lockers, joking, tossing towels, complaining about homework. Wei pulled off his jersey and rubbed a towel over his face. Then he heard Chen Yu's voice, deep, casual, responding to someone about the next match lineup. Oh, now you talk, Wei thought bitterly. So it's personal. He walked over and stood nearby, pretending to check his bag. You've got great control, he said to Chen Yu. For someone with no personality. Chen Yu didn't look at him. For someone who talks so much, you say very little. Wei blinked. Then smirked. You know. I think I like you better when you're shooting. At least then, you're useful. Chen Yu gave the slightest tilt of his head. That's mutual. Wei's lips twitched, halfway between impressed and annoyed. Oh. You're a smartass. Noted. Dorm room, that night. Chen Yu walked in first, dropped his duffel, and headed to the shower without a word. Wei followed a minute later, slammed the door a little harder than necessary, then threw himself onto the bed face first. "God, you are exhausting," he muttered into the blanket. Chen Yu walked out later in a towel, drying his hair. His body was muscular, scarred in places. Athletic, but not flashy. Wei didn't stare, he was too annoyed for that. "Seriously? What's your deal?" he finally asked, voice muffled. "You're like a walking mute button. Except you've got favorites." Chen Yu ignored him. Pulled on a t-shirt. Sat down. Opened a book. Wei turned his head slowly. "You know I exist, right? I'm not just a mattress ghost haunting the corner of your room." Still nothing. Wei groaned, sat up, and pointed dramatically. "Okay, I get it. I'm not worth your words." "Cool. You'll regret that, though." Chen Yu raised one eyebrow. Wei's smile turned mischievous. "I'm gonna make you speak, Chen Yu. Just wait." Narrator. There was no warmth between them. No softness. Just silence, challenge, and the beginnings of something messy neither of them could name. Not friendship. Not hate. Just an itch under the skin. And a growing need for a reaction. Little wars. Chen Yu's math notebook was missing. He flipped through his stack of textbooks again. Then again. Nothing. He narrowed his eyes, pulled out his chair, checked the floor. Still nothing. From across the room, Li Wei sat on his bed, reading a comic with exaggerated innocence, legs crossed, eyes too focused on the same page for too long. Chen Yu didn't say a word. He stood, walked to his bag, checked again. "Gone. This is how you wanna play?" He said nothing. Just grabbed a spare notebook, copied a few notes from his phone, and left for class without looking at Wei. 2 days later, Chen Yu's locker refused to open. He twisted the dial twice. Then again. Then slammed his palm against it. The hinges rattled, unmoved. He felt eyes on him. He turned slowly. Li Wei leaned against the wall nearby, sipping juice from a straw pouch, looking bored. Too bored. "Problem?" he asked, voice flat but laced with amusement. Chen Yu exhaled through his nose and walked away. Calm. Controlled. That night, Li Wei's locker had been filled entirely with socks. Random. Colorful. All mismatched. He opened it, stared blankly for 2 full seconds, then burst out laughing. It began like that. No words. No warnings. Just petty revenge. Wei found his toothpaste cap missing. Chen Yu opened his notebook to find a frog sticker on every page. Wei returned to the dorm one evening to find his pillow taped to the ceiling. He didn't even ask how. Chen Yu once turned on the sink to brush his teeth and found orange juice in the water filter tank. Neither of them admitted anything. But they both knew. At school, they still didn't speak in public. Chen Yu passed Wei in the hallway like he didn't exist. Wei threw paper balls at his head during lunch and blamed the guy behind him. Their classmates were confused. "Are you guys fighting?" "No," Wei would say, smiling. "We're playing." Chen Yu would roll his eyes. "We're not." They were. One evening, Wei returned to the dorm early. He flopped on his bed and grinned, proud of today's trick. He'd switched the labels on Chen Yu's shampoo and conditioner. Harmless. Satisfying. Then the door opened. Chen Yu walked in, wet hair, towel around his neck, and a dead stare fixed right at Wei. Wei. It was the first time he had said his name aloud. Li Wei blinked. Oh, wow. You do know how to speak in full sentences. Chen Yu tossed a damp t-shirt at him without a word and sat down at his desk. Wei chuckled, tossing the shirt aside. You mad? Silence. Wanna fight? Chen Yu opened his drawer calmly, pulled out a black marker, and looked at Wei's favorite sneakers near the bed. Wei's eyes widened. Okay, truce. Narrator. It wasn't friendship. It wasn't even hatred. It was something in between. A war of childish games and stolen moments of victory. And neither of them wanted to be the first to surrender. Episode 5. Something I wasn't supposed to see. Flashback a month later. It was supposed to be a prank. Nothing deep. Nothing serious. Just another move in their childish little war. Li Wei had planned it while lying on his girlfriend's lap in the back garden behind the art building. She scrolled through her phone, legs stretched out, while he rambled about how Chen Yu still hadn't reacted to the shampoo switch. She rolled her eyes and smacked his arm. Why do you care so much about that guy? Li Wei grinned, eyes closed. I don't. It's just fun watching his expression not change. You weird. He looked up at her with a cocky smile. That's why you like me. She didn't argue. But she didn't laugh either. Later that day, Chen Yu left school grounds early. Wei noticed him slipping out near the back gate, alone, carrying something in a plastic bag. He waited 2 minutes. Then followed. He wasn't sure why. Maybe he expected something scandalous, some secret girlfriend Chen Yu never spoke about. Maybe a hidden fight club. Or maybe he just wanted to mess with him again. The sun had dipped low, casting gold streaks across the crumbling sidewalks. Wei kept a distance, hoodie up, earphones in but not playing anything. Chen Yu didn't look back once. They reached an old neighborhood, not the kind you brag about. Cracked cement. Rusted gates. Stray dogs watching quietly from corners. And then, tucked between 2 shuttered shops, a worn sign, Ling Care Clinic. Wei stopped behind a lamppost, half hidden by a tree. He watched as Chen Yu entered, holding the bag tightly to his chest. There was no swagger in his steps. No weight in his shoulders. He just looked small. Wei waited 5 minutes before he crept forward and peeked through the glass. Inside, under the soft blue light of the hospital room, Chen Yu sat beside a woman lying on the bed. Her face was pale. Paper-thin skin. Sunken cheeks. Breathing machine beside her. Chen Yu wasn't speaking. He just sat there, fingers gently wrapped around her frail wrist. His head bowed. Not cold. Not tough. Just quiet. Wei had never seen him like this. No defense. No anger. No mask. Just a boy who was trying not to fall apart in front of the only person he couldn't afford to lose. Then slowly Chen Yu leaned forward and rested his forehead against the back of her hand. And stayed there. Still. Shaking. Wei stepped back, heart pounding in his chest like it had been caught doing something wrong. He didn't know why it hit so hard. He wasn't even supposed to be there. He turned around and walked back the way he came, slower than before. Lighter. His thoughts wouldn't stop. That night in the dorm, Chen Yu came in late. Wei was on his bed, staring at the ceiling. Chen Yu didn't speak. Didn't he even notice him? He just dropped his bag and went straight to the desk. Changed clothes silently. Sat down, opened a book, and stared at the page like the words weren't really there. His shoulders sagged more than usual. His eyes looked dimmer under the desk lamp. Wei watched quietly from his bed. And for once he didn't say anything. He didn't tease. Didn't he prank? Didn't he smile? Because now he knew something he wasn't supposed to know. And he couldn't unsee it. Narrator. It wasn't love. It wasn't even friendship. But something had shifted. Not between them. Inside Wei. A thread had pulled loose. And now he couldn't stop thinking about the boy who never spoke. And the pain he had never once shown. Unwanted kindness. Flashback a few days later. The vending machine buzzed and clattered, dropping a bottle of warm soy milk into the tray. Wei grabbed it and turned toward the school's west courtyard, quiet, shaded, and half-deserted after lunch. Chen Yu was there. Sitting on the bench beneath the jacaranda tree with his earbuds in, staring at nothing. The sleeves of his hoodie were pulled over his hands, his bag tucked at his side, unopened. His lunch sat beside him, untouched. Wei stopped a few feet away, unsure why his feet had taken him there. Then he sighed, dropped the soy milk on the bench beside Chen Yu without a word, and turned to leave. Later that evening, in the dorm, Chen Yu stood near the window, a crumpled plastic bottle in his hand. Wei glanced up from his bed. "You drink it?" he asked. Chen Yu's eyes narrowed. "What?" "The soy milk." Chen Yu tilted his head slightly, eyes unreadable. "That was you?" Wei shrugged. "Just figured you skipped lunch." Chen Yu tossed the bottle into the bin. His tone was colder than usual. "I don't need handouts." Wei sat up. "It's not a handout. It's just a drink." "You looked..." Chen Yu cut him off. "I am fine. Don't do that again." His voice didn't rise. It was flat. Final. He turned away. Wei stared at his back, lips parting then closing again. "Right. You don't want help. From anyone." Next morning, school hallway. Wei leaned against the locker wall, arms folded, watching students file past. Chen Yu appeared down the corridor, same black hoodie, same heavy steps. Wei waited until he passed. Still pretending not to be human, he called. Chen Yu didn't stop. "I mean, most people appreciate being noticed." Still no reaction. Wei walked a few steps behind him, voice lower. "Do you hate people that much, or just me?" That made Chen Yu stop. He turned slowly. His eyes were calm, but there was something sharper underneath. "People don't hate me. They just stop trying." The words hit harder than Wei expected. He didn't reply. Chen Yu didn't wait. Later that week, gym storage room. Basketballs rolled lazily across the floor as the last few team members left. The coach had called early dismissal. Wei lingered, tying his shoes slower than necessary. Chen Yu was stuffing towels into the basket, shoulders tense. "You still visiting the hospital?" Wei asked suddenly, eyes down on his laces. Silence. He looked up. Chen Yu stood still, back turned. Then slowly he faced him. "What?" Wei swallowed. "I mean, I noticed you left early last Friday." A long pause. Chen Yu's face darkened. His jaw tensed. "Don't follow me," he said. Wei raised his hands. "I didn't mean look, I wasn't trying to spy. I just..." "You don't know anything," Chen Yu snapped. The words were low, not loud. But they cut. He walked past Wei, bumping his shoulder, and left. That night dawn. Wei sat by the window, staring at the cracked pane. Chen Yu was at the desk, scribbling something with his head down. The silence between them wasn't the usual kind. It was heavier now. Bitter. Wei wanted to say something. But he didn't. And Chen Yu never looked up. Narrator. Wei didn't know why he cared. Maybe he didn't. Maybe it was guilt. Or maybe it was the first time he'd seen someone not trying to be strong, but needing to be left alone. He wasn't helping anymore. He was just watching. And for once he didn't know what to do with that.